My name is Sofia Martinez, and I learned early that my family measured worth in dollar signs and quarterly profits. My father, Roberto Martinez, built Martinez Auto Group from a single dealership into a regional empire, 12 locations across 3 states. My older brother, Carlos, was groomed from birth to inherit that empire. I was groomed to smile at charity galas and marry well. Neither of them expected me to build something bigger. The problem started when I was 22, fresh out of college with a computer science degree my father had barely tolerated. "Women don't understand cars," he'd said when I suggested joining the business. "Stick to planning the company events." So I did something else instead. My college roommate Priya Kapoor and I had been coding late nights in our dorm, building an AI-powered logistics platform we called RouteSync. The idea was simple: optimize delivery routes in real time using machine learning, saving companies millions in fuel costs and delivery times. We were young and naive and convinced we'd stumbled onto something revolutionary. We were right. By the time I graduated, we'd secured our first client, a small regional delivery company willing to test our beta platform. Within 3 months, they'd reduced fuel costs by 18% and delivery times by 23%. Word spread. We incorporated. We got investor interest. I owned 40% of RouteSync Technologies. I made the mistake of telling my family at Sunday dinner. "You did what?" Dad's fork clattered against his plate. "You invested in some tech startup?" "I didn't invest," I explained carefully. "I co-founded it. I own 40%. We're already profitable and..." "Profitable?" Carlos laughed. "Sofia, 90% of startups fail in the first year. You're going to lose everything. We've been operational for 8 months. We have 12 clients and..." 12 clients. Dad's voice rose. "Do you have any idea how volatile the tech industry is? I've seen 100 companies like yours disappear overnight." Mom touched his arm. "Roberto, maybe we should..." "No." He pointed at me. "This is exactly the kind of reckless decision-making that proves you're not ready for real business. How much did you invest?" "I told you I didn't invest money. I built the platform with Priya. I own shares because I'm a founder." "Shares in a company worth nothing." Dad shook his head. "Those shares are worthless paper until someone buys the company or it goes public. You understand that, right?" "I understand equity structure, Dad. I have a degree in..." "Carlos." Dad turned to my brother. "Explain to your sister what happens to tech startups when the market shifts." My brother leaned back, enjoying this. "They collapse, sis. One bad quarter, one competitor with deeper pockets, one algorithm change and your entire company vanishes." "Dad's right. You're sitting on worthless paper." "It's not worthless if the company has value," I insisted. "Hypothetical value," Dad corrected. "Listen to me, Sofia. I'm going to help you because I love you. I'm going to protect you from your own inexperience." Something cold settled in my stomach. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to buy those shares from you. All of them. Fair market value. Whatever the company's actually worth right now, which I'm guessing is almost nothing. You'll get cash in hand, I'll hold the shares safely, and when this whole thing inevitably collapses, you won't lose everything." "Dad, I don't want to sell." "You're not thinking clearly." His voice had that final tone that ended all arguments. "This is what fathers do. They protect their children from bad decisions. But we're growing. We just got interest from a Fortune 500 company and..." "Interest isn't a contract." He stood up. "I'll have my attorney draw up the paperwork. We'll do this properly legally. You'll thank me in 5 years when you still have money in the bank and your little tech dream is dead." I looked at my mother. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Carlos. He smirked. "Dad knows best, Sofia." "I'm not selling," I said quietly. Dad's expression hardened. "Yes, you are. Because if you don't, I'm cutting you off completely. No more family support, no more apartment rent, no more car insurance. You want to play entrepreneur? Fine. Do it without the family safety net." "Roberto," Mom whispered. "That's too harsh." "It's necessary." He looked at me. "Your choice, Sofia. Sell me those shares at a fair price and remain part of this family with all its benefits, or keep your worthless paper and see how long you last on your own." I was 22 years old, making $43,000 a year at my day job while building RouteSync on nights and weekends. I lived in a family-owned condo. My car was a graduation gift on my father's insurance. He was calling my bluff and we both knew it. How much? I asked. I'll have the company appraised. Whatever it's legitimately worth, I'll pay you that plus 10% for your trouble. Can't be fairer than that. The appraisal came back at $127,000 for the entire company. My 40% was valued at $50,800. Dad offered me $56,000 for shares I'd built from nothing. This is theft, Priya said when I told her. Those shares are worth way more. We're about to close the AutoNation deal. He doesn't know that. The appraisal is based on current revenue, not projected growth. So don't sell to him. He'll cut me off completely. And honestly, Priya, I'm scared. What if he's right? What if we do fail? She stared at me. You don't actually believe that. I didn't. But I was exhausted from fighting my family every single day. I was tired of being called reckless and naive and stupid. Part of me wanted to take his money, keep the peace and prove them all wrong some other way. I'll sell him half, I decided. 20%. That way I keep some upside if we succeed, but I don't lose everything if we fail. Sofia. It's my choice, Priya. 2 weeks later I signed the paperwork. Dad paid me $28,000 for half my shares. I kept the remaining 20%, which my father's attorney strongly advised against. You're making an emotional decision, the lawyer said. Better to have guaranteed cash than hypothetical future value. I replied calmly, understood. Carlos found the whole thing hilarious. She's keeping worthless paper out of pure stubbornness, he told people at a family gathering. That's Sofia, never knows when to quit. I said nothing and quietly left the party early. What my family didn't know was that RouteSync was about to explode. 3 weeks after I sold those shares, we closed the AutoNation deal, a 5-year contract worth $4.2 million annually. 2 months after that, we signed with FedEx for regional route optimization. 6 months later, we had 43 enterprise clients and were processing 17 million delivery routes monthly. We raised our Series A, $15 million at a $75 million valuation. My remaining 20% was suddenly worth $15 million on paper. Dad never mentioned it. Neither did Carlos. When RouteSync made headlines in TechCrunch as the logistics AI everyone's talking about, Mom sent me a text. Saw your company in the news. That's nice, dear. That was it. They didn't ask how I was doing. They didn't acknowledge they'd been wrong. They certainly didn't offer to sell my shares back. At family dinners, Dad and Carlos still talked about real business. Showroom traffic, inventory management, dealer incentives. My work was never discussed. I was still the daughter who'd needed protecting from her own bad decisions. I stopped trying to prove anything to them. I focused on building. RouteSync series became 18 months later. $60 million at a $340 million valuation. We expanded internationally. We hired 200 employees. Priya and I made the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. My 20% was worth $68 million. I was 25 years old. Dad saw the Forbes article because a business associate mentioned it at the country club. He called me that evening. Sofia, we should talk about your company. I think it might be time to revisit the share situation. Revisit how? Well, I'd be willing to sell those shares back to you. For what I paid, of course. I wouldn't profit off my own daughter. You want to sell me my own shares for $28,000? The shares that are worth approximately $34 million now. Silence. Then, the market can shift. You should lock in some gains. I'm good, Dad. Thanks anyway. He didn't bring it up again. We went public 3 years later. The IPO priced at $47 per share, valuing RouteSync at $2.8 billion. My remaining 20% was worth $560 million. The 20% Dad had bought for $28,000 was worth the same amount. He'd made a $559,972,000 profit on my work. The truly beautiful part? Dad had used those shares as collateral. I learned this by accident from my aunt who mentioned over coffee that Roberto was so brilliant to have invested in that tech thing you started. When I pressed for details, she explained that Dad had pledged the RouteSync shares to secure a massive loan for Martinez Auto Group's expansion. 8 new dealerships across Texas and Arizona. The bank wouldn't have approved the loan without that collateral, she said proudly. Your father turned your little computer project into real business growth. I smiled politely. That's interesting. What my aunt didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been quietly building a second empire. My RouteSync wealth had funded something bigger. Martinez Capital Partners, my private investment firm. We specialized in acquiring controlling interests in family-owned businesses, particularly in the automotive sector. We were very good at it. We were also very quiet about it. Martinez Auto Group's expansion had been aggressive. Too aggressive. Dad had overextended, assuming the automotive market would stay strong. When supply chain issues hit during the pandemic and new car inventory dried up, his dealership started bleeding money. The loan payments on that expansion, secured by my RouteSync shares, came due quarterly. $4 million every 3 months. I knew this because I made it my business to know everything about Martinez Auto Group's financial situation. I was 30 years old, worth $840 million personally, and I controlled a $3.2 billion investment fund. My family still thought I was lucky to have stumbled into a successful tech company. They had no idea I'd been strategically positioning myself for 8 years. The opportunity came on a Tuesday. My fund manager, James Chin, called with interesting news. Martinez Auto Group missed their loan payment. The bank is getting nervous. They're looking to offload the debt. How much? $16 million outstanding plus penalties. But here's the thing, the company's in worse shape than the bank knows. 3 dealerships are underwater, inventories depleted, and they've got a discrimination lawsuit from former employees that could cost another $8 million if they lose. What's the bank asking for the debt? $12 million, and they'll throw in first right of refusal on any asset sales. They just want out. I did the math. For $12 million, I could own the debt that would give me leverage over a company worth approximately $43 million in assets. The company my father had built. The company my brother was supposed to inherit. The company that had been built partially on shares stolen from me. Buy the debt, I said. All of it. But keep our name out of the documentation. Use the Delaware holding company structure. You sure about this, Sofia? It's your family. I'm sure. And James? Start preparing acquisition documents for a controlling interest purchase. Majority stake, board seats, operational control. I want everything ready. Understood. I hung up and stared out my office window at the San Francisco skyline. 8 years. 8 years of quiet preparation. 8 years of watching my father and brother dismiss everything I'd built while using my success to fund their own expansion. The irony was almost poetic. Martinez Capital Partners acquired the debt on Thursday. By Friday, we owned the legal right to demand immediate payment or seize collateral. The collateral was my RouteSync shares, now worth $612 million, and secondary claims on the dealership properties themselves. I waited 2 weeks. Let them miss another payment. Let the pressure build. Then I texted my fund manager. Acquire controlling interest in Martinez Auto Group. Offer fair market value. Make it professional. James texted back. They're going to know it's you. Eventually. But not yet. The offer went to Dad's business attorney on a Monday morning. Martinez Capital Partners was prepared to purchase 65% of Martinez Auto Group for $28 million cash, assuming all debt and providing $15 million in operational capital. The deal would save the company, protect all employees, and allow the Martinez family to retain minority ownership. It was a generous offer. It was also a complete takeover. Dad's attorney called him immediately. I know because I was having lunch with my mother when Dad's phone rang. It was the first time I'd seen my parents in 3 months. Mom had insisted on a family meal at her favorite restaurant. Dad answered. What? Slow down, David. What offer? His face went red. Then pale. Then gray. Who? Martinez Capital Partners? Never heard of them. Why are they? He stopped. Listen. They own our debt. How is that possible? Carlos had joined us. He leaned over. What's wrong? Dad waved him off. David, I need you to find out who's behind this company. Someone's trying to take over me and I want to know who. He paused. What do you mean the offer is time sensitive? We have lawyers, we can... He fell silent. Listen. 3 days. They're giving us 3 days to respond. Mom touched his hand. Roberto, what's happening? He didn't answer her. He was staring at his phone, scrolling through what I assumed was the offer document David had just emailed. "This is a hostile takeover," he muttered. "Someone's been positioning for this. They bought our debt, they know our exact financial situation, they've structured this to force our hand." "Who would do that?" Carlos demanded. Dad looked up. His eyes found mine across the table. For a moment, just a moment, I saw recognition flicker. But it passed. Because why would his daughter, the one who got lucky with a tech company, have the sophistication to execute a strategic acquisition of his life's work? "I don't know," he said finally. "But I'm going to find out." I took a sip of water. "That sounds stressful. I hope you figure it out." The next 3 days were chaos. I watched from a distance. Dad hired a crisis management firm. They determined that Martinez Capital Partners was a legitimate investment firm with $3.2 billion under management, specializing in automotive sector acquisitions. They'd successfully acquired and restructured 17 family-owned dealership groups in the past 4 years. What the crisis firm couldn't determine was who owned Martinez Capital Partners. The corporate structure was deliberately opaque. Holding companies, Delaware registrations, privacy-protected filings. Dad tried to raise capital to pay off the debt. No bank would touch him. His financials were too weak, his expansion too aggressive. The only offer on the table was ours. Carlos suggested selling off dealerships. The attorney explained that wouldn't work. They were underwater on most locations and selling would trigger clauses that would accelerate the entire debt. They were trapped. On day 3 at 4:47 p.m., Dad's attorney called to accept the offer. "We need some modifications," David said. "Mr. Martinez wants guaranteed board representation and operational control of." "No modifications," James interrupted. "The offer is comprehensive and fair. Accept as written or we withdraw and pursue debt collection through the courts." There was a long silence. "We accept," David said quietly. "Excellent. We'll send the final documents Monday morning. We'd like to meet with Mr. Martinez and his leadership team Tuesday afternoon to discuss transition planning." "Who should we expect from your side?" "Our principal will be there. She prefers to meet her acquisition partners in person." The word "she" hung in the air. "She," David repeated. "Yes. Is Tuesday at 2 p.m. acceptable?" Another pause. "Yes. We'll be there." I spent the weekend preparing. Not documents. Those were perfect. I prepared myself emotionally for what was coming. Tuesday arrived cold and clear. I dressed in a charcoal Tom Ford suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. Professional. Powerful. Undeniable. James met me in the lobby of Martinez Auto Group headquarters. A building I'd visited exactly 3 times in my life. Always for company Christmas parties where I'd been introduced as Roberto's daughter who works with computers. "They're in the main conference room," James said. "Your father, Carlos, their CFO, their attorney and 2 consultants they brought in. They're planning to fight. They're planning to negotiate. They don't realize there's nothing to negotiate." We rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. I could feel my heart beating but my hands were steady. I'd been preparing for this moment for 8 years. The conference room doors were glass. I could see them before they saw me. Dad at the head of the table, Carlos beside him, everyone in suits looking grim and determined. James opened the door. They looked up. I walked in. For 3 full seconds nobody moved. Dad's expression went from confusion to recognition to something I'd never seen before. Complete, devastating understanding. "Sofia." Mom's voice came from the corner. She'd insisted on being there, supporting her husband. I set my bag on the table. "Hello, Dad." "Carlos." "What are you?" Carlos started. "I'm the principal owner of Martinez Capital Partners, the company that just acquired 65% of Martinez Auto Group. As of Monday morning, I control this company." The room went silent. Dad found his voice. "That's impossible. You run a logistics company." "I'm CEO of a logistics company worth $2.8 billion. I also run a private investment firm that manages $3.2 billion in assets. We specialize in automotive acquisitions." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Shall we discuss the transition?" "This is." Dad's attorney shuffled papers. "This is a conflict of interest. You can't." "There's no conflict. This was an arm's-length transaction. Your client received a fair market offer that saves his company from bankruptcy. The fact that the buyer is his daughter doesn't change the legality. You bought our debt. Carlos shouted. You orchestrated this entire thing. I bought debt that was being sold by a bank tired of your missed payments. I then offered to acquire a controlling interest in a struggling company. These are standard business practices. Standard. Dad's voice shook. You targeted your own family. No. I met his eyes. I invested in an opportunity. The same way you invested in my shares 8 years ago to protect me from failure. The color drained from his face. Those shares you bought for $28,000? They're currently worth $612 million. You used them as collateral to fund an expansion you couldn't afford. Now the debt secured by my work is owned by my company. Which means, in a very real sense, I've been funding your business for years. Without credit. Without acknowledgement. Without even a thank you. Sofia. Mom whispered. I opened my folder. Let's discuss the transition plan. Effective immediately, I'll be appointing 3 new board members to join the existing 5. Given my controlling interest, this gives me majority board control. I'll be bringing in a new CFO and COO. Both have extensive automotive experience and have successfully restructured companies in similar situations. You can't do this, Carlos said. This company is our legacy. This company was built partially on my stolen success. And yes, I absolutely can do this. It's called majority ownership. I slid documents across the table. Dad, Carlos, you'll both retain your positions for now, reporting to the new CEO. Your compensation will be adjusted to market rates, which, given the company's performance, means a 30% reduction. You're cutting our salaries? Carlos looked like I'd slapped him. I'm aligning compensation with performance. You've lost money for 3 consecutive quarters. In any other company, you'd be terminated. Dad finally spoke. His voice was hollow. Why are you doing this? I'm saving your company. The alternative was bankruptcy, liquidation, and complete loss of the Martinez name in the automotive industry. You're welcome. That's not what I meant. He stared at me. Why are you destroying your own family? I leaned back in my chair. I'm not destroying anything, Dad. I'm doing exactly what you taught me. I'm making smart business decisions. I'm protecting investments. I'm ensuring long-term success over short-term emotion. This is revenge. This is business. You said it yourself 8 years ago. Family doesn't matter when it comes to protecting assets. I stood up. The transition team will be here tomorrow morning at 8. I expect full cooperation and complete financial transparency. If you have any questions, direct them to James. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Sofia. Dad's voice stopped me. Those shares. I would have given them back if you'd asked. They're yours. They were always meant to be yours. I turned. Really? Then why did you use them as collateral without telling me? Why did you build your expansion on my success while telling everyone I'd gotten lucky? Why did you let Carlos mock me at every family gathering for 8 years while you profited from my work? He had no answer. You taught me that family is only valuable when it serves your interests, I said quietly. I learned that lesson very well. I walked out. The restructuring took 6 months. I brought in a team that streamlined operations, cut unnecessary overhead, and renegotiated supplier contracts. We closed 3 underperforming locations and invested heavily in the remaining 9. We shifted focus to certified pre-owned vehicles and service departments, reducing reliance on new car inventory. Within a year, Martinez Auto Group was profitable again. Dad and Carlos stayed on, but they weren't running the company anymore. They were employees. Well-compensated employees, but employees nonetheless. Family dinners stopped. Mom tried to maintain connections, but it was awkward. What do you say to the daughter who legally owns your husband's life's work? I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I simply ran the business professionally and let the results speak for themselves. The real victory came 18 months after the acquisition. RouteSync announced a major expansion into the automotive sector. Fleet management optimization for dealerships and rental companies. Our first partnership, Martinez Auto Group, which would serve as the pilot program for the technology. The press release went out on a Friday. RouteSync CEO Sofia Martinez partners with family business to revolutionize auto retail logistics. The article included a photo of me at a Martinez Auto Group dealership, standing in front of the Martinez family name that had never included me. Dad called that evening. I saw the press release, he said. It's good business. Your dealerships get cutting-edge technology at a discount. RouteSync gets a prestigious pilot partner. Everyone wins. Sofia, I owe you an apology. I waited. I was wrong. About the shares, about your company, about your abilities. I was trying to protect you, but really I was scared you'd fail and I'd have to watch you struggle. It was easier to take control than to trust you. I know. Can you forgive me? I looked out my apartment window at the San Francisco skyline. Thought about the scared 22-year-old who'd signed away half her company to keep the peace. Thought about the 30-year-old who'd systematically acquired her father's business as restitution. I don't know, Dad. But I'm willing to try. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was honest. And sometimes that's all you can offer. Martinez Auto Group celebrated its best quarter in company history last month. I sent Dad and Carlos their performance bonuses personally. Each received $340,000, which happened to be exactly the amount Dad had paid me for those shares 8 years ago. I didn't mention the coincidence. I didn't have to. Some lessons are better learned in silence.